over to this computer. There goes my little record button. Okay, so when we talk about WFG, and one of the things that we really pride ourselves in is all of the companies that we market for, right? Because you hear the saying, we're in business with 75% of Fortune 500 financial institutions and insurance companies. So, I mean, a lot of statistics and things are thrown out there, but I think a lot of times people, they don't necessarily know, like, okay, well, who are these companies? So a couple of things I want to show you guys. So the first one is we have two categories of companies that we market for. So we have our platinum providers, and here are our platinum providers. Where is it at? Where is it at? I can't even find what I'm looking for. It might be on here. But we have like 4 or 5 companies that are platinum providers. So our platinum providers are Transamerica. There we go. Okay. So we have Everest, we have Transamerica, Nationwide, Pacific Life. All right. So these ones, Voya is no longer a platinum provider. Voya a couple of years ago, well, actually not a couple of years, last year, they focused their energy primarily on company benefits. So they do a lot in regards to 457 plans. Like they scored a big one in the city of Los Angeles. They took over the city's deferred comp plan. I know they've done a lot in regards to teachers as well. And so they made a huge shift in their business and their focus to go more in the direction of employee benefits. And so they're no longer on our platinum providers, but we still have Pacific Life, Transamerica, Nationwide, and Everest. And there's another company called Crump. So now what does this mean? This basically means, like, all right, so you have companies that have they have annuities, life insurance, all of that stuff that we can go to directly, or particularly life insurance that we can go to directly. And these are the companies we go through directly. So again, these are our platinum providers. Now, on the other side, we have something called, so you see here, you see product providers. So you see right here, or preferred providers is what they're called now. It used to be called platinum providers. So these are our preferred providers. And then we have this other company called Crump, which is a preferred provider. But understand, Crump is like a company within our company. Okay? So it's a company within our company. Now, here's what, I know if Sandra and Lily are on the call, they're like, oh my gosh, not Crump. Because Crump has some growing to do. Crump has to have some growth that needs to take place within them. But nonetheless, what Crump gives us is a whole slew of other companies that we're able to market for. All right, so let's go here. So when you look at, I'll pull this up. Yeah, Rob, that is probably, Rob, if you're not getting the sound, you probably can't hear me. If somebody can kind of text them through the group message, help them get the sound going. Or can everybody else hear me? I don't want to assume everybody else can hear me. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Michael.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Right. So you look at all of these companies: Accordia Life, Allianz, American General, American National, Metris, Assurity Life, Athene, AXA Equitable, Banner Life, Bright House, Delaware, Fidelity, Foresters, Forethought. Like, you name it, we got a whole bunch of companies, a whole bunch, right? Now, here's what you don't have to do. You don't have to memorize and know all of the companies that are on the Crump's platform. I don't expect you to. I don't even know them, right? Like, matter of fact, I was like, wow, we got Forrester. I didn't even know we had Forrester. And so what we do with Crump, I don't know if you saw on this page. So you have this guy right here, Chris Katadrian. He's our annuity wholesaler through Crump. So if you have annuities, you can reach out to Chris or his team. Tell them the scenario, and they'll give you 3 or 4 companies that you can reach out to make sure that, okay, this is these are probably the 3 or 4 best opportunities to be able to fit your client. And then based on your client situation, you figure out which is the best one for them. And I don't expect everybody to know. I know Yvonne Parker and Sandra right now, and Lily still does it from time to time as well. They'll ask me like, hey, Mike, Crump sent me this. What do you think? And so you'll always have us. You'll always have us for, as a support, as a sounding board. Like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Does this product really work? And then for the life insurance side, we have something there as well. So with that being said, so again, break everything down. And if you're taking notes, just write 2 columns, right? So column number 1 are my preferred providers. Everest Funeral, right? And we have an Everest training on the Dropbox. We have Nationwide. You have Pacific Life. You have Transamerica Life and Transamerica Premier, okay? And then you have Crump, which is on the preferred provider, but underneath Crump are all of the other providers that we have on our platform. So you have our preferred column and you have your Crump column, okay? And that's how, and typically what I do, and it's not that our preferred providers are better than our Crump providers. Matter of fact, many times some of the Crump providers can provide a better solution. It's just the preferred providers are, they've been with WFG the longest. They have, a certain relationship together, and typically they can get things done relatively quickly. So again, it's not a better or best. Sometimes it's just a matter of customer service and then also name recognition. A lot of times people are more comfortable. I've had clients that said, I know Nationwide. I don't know Banner Life. I don't know who the heck Banner is. I'd rather go with Nationwide, even if it is an extra couple of dollars. So you want to, so that's one thing I wanted to be able to kind of break down and identify for people. Now, another thing you can do is you can always call either our preferred providers or Crump, and you can have them run illustrations for you. One thing I've always been kind of a stickler for are running my own illustrations, right? So you have illustration software that you can download. So if you're Claire and Pedro and Ted, and you're just getting everything, just got your license, waiting for your numbers to come in, making sure we get appointed, and please make sure you guys are reaching out to us for support and getting that done in a timely fashion, because unfortunately the state just does not communicate with us. But you want to make sure that we get you through that process relatively quickly. But yeah, you can always have the provider run illustrations for you. But I encourage everybody on here, learn how to run an illustration, because you're going to call the provider and you're going to say, okay, I have a client, they're 35 years old, I want an IUL, and they're putting $300 a month in. And they're like, okay, baby, can you please stop? My daughter's in here. She's bored messing with stuff. But I know some of you guys are like, where is he at? That's a virtual background. That's not really an office. I found a virtual background. I said WFG. I thought it was pretty cool. But anyways, yeah, I encourage everybody to learn how to run illustration, because the home office, they're not in front of the client. And especially when it comes to like IULs and things like that, like you have so much control on how you can structure things for families, right? So like, right, I'm gonna run a quick illustration right here, okay? So, and another thing, when it comes to IULs and VULs specifically, that's gonna be my focus for today, for about the next 20 minutes. Like I said, we're not gonna go long today. We're gonna keep it relatively short. But when it comes to IULs, I know everybody talks about the IUL like it's the greatest thing since the invention of the wheel. And it really is an amazing tool when it comes to financial planning. Is it the silver bullet that's going to kill the werewolf? No. And what do I mean by kill the werewolf? I mean, is it the one thing that's going to be able to help people retire? No. Is it the one thing that's going to make everybody financially independent? No. It's not going to do that, because it's only as good as the person that's funding, right? So it's like a 401k, it's like a 403b, it's like any other tool where it's like, okay, if I want something from this, I actually need to put something in it, right? A teacher doesn't go through 30 years of teaching and expect, okay, I'm going to have $1 million in my 403b, and they only put $50 a month into it. Like the math just doesn't add up. And so when we're putting these things together and we're talking about the tax-free distributions and we're talking about the flexibility and we're talking about the accessibility and all of those other things, here's something that's just as important, if not more important, is you gotta put money in it. You have to put money in it, right? So this is Nationwide's Illustrator. And I'm gonna go with Nationwide because Nationwide, in my opinion, from beginning to end, when I'm talking about beginning to end, I mean term life, universal life, index annuities, variable annuities. Like they have one of the strongest product lines on our platform. That's just my opinion. Okay, like literally across the board. And I can't say that with all of our other companies. I haven't written VULs with all of our companies. Like Pacific Life, I've written VULs and I've written some term, but I've never written universal life. I've never written any annuities. Like literally every product that we have on our platform, I've at least written it once through Nationwide. Now this isn't a pro Nationwide conversation. This is just why I'm using them right now. So let's talk about let's start with the term policy. I'm going to do a term policy really quick. So I click right here on this change. So I'm going to do a 20-year term policy. So let's say I have a 35-year-old or a 40-year-old. I'm going to use me, right? So I got a 40-year-old that wants to, that again, they're me. He's married. They have kids. They have a lot of financial responsibility looking at buying homes. So they have a pretty big insurable need, but they don't have a whole lot of money to work with. So what I want to, and they don't have an emergency fund. So what I want to do is I don't want a bunch of money going towards cost of insurance. I want as little as possible going towards cost of insurance, but I want to make sure I meet the insurable need. So I want to cover this person for, let's say, $750,000. Right? So we're covering for $750,000, preferred non-tobacco rating, right? And then we're gonna have a children's rider because we want to make sure both of the kids are covered for $25,000. So now what have I done is I'm covered for $750,000. Both the kids are covered for $25,000. So if anything happens to anybody, money's gonna pay out. There's no financial burden on anybody, right? Now, let's find out how much that would run our client. All right, so go ahead and hit the calculate button. Then we calculate everything, and it says, survey says, so the annual premium will be $762. $762. That's probably what, like $60 a month. Right? So this is for people who say, well, life insurance really costs a lot. No, it don't. And this isn't even our cheapest. Nationwide is not the cheapest when it comes to term insurance. Transamerica and AIG. AIG, you'll get access to Crump. Transamerica is a preferred provider. So they're actually less expensive than Nationwide. But literally for $60 a month, which is, some people spend that going to Starbucks. For $60 a month, people can make sure that their family is covered, right? This is at a preferred rating. Now, obviously, you have different ratings. I typically run all of my rate classes at standard because here's the reason why. So let's say I quote them $762 a year or $60 a month, right? But they actually came back at a standard rating, right? So if they come back at a standard rating, oh, that premium just went up to $1,160 a month. I mean, a year, not a month. So that's about just under $100 a month. So about $98 a month or something like that. So I don't want to tell the client like, hey, it's going to be $760 a year, and then I come back and it's actually $1,000 a year. I'd rather quote them the $1,000 and then come back and say like, hey, you know what? You're healthy and you're in good health. And Nationwide said, hey, we got you. And they actually quoted you at preferred instead of non-tobacco. So instead of $1,000, we're actually going to do, it's actually going to be $700 a year for you, or $60 a month. And so that's typically how I present the insurance conversation. So I mean the term insurance conversation. So again, this is just for straight term. Okay, I'm not looking at any type of I'm not looking for a permanent solution. I have a high insurable need. I don't have a whole lot of money I'm working with, and I want to make sure my family gets covered. And I'm not just going to try and force the person into an IUL because it doesn't fit them. The primary function of a life insurance policy is to make sure a family is protected. All right. Now, if somebody doesn't have a huge insurable need and they want to leverage it for cash value accumulation, then we can set it up for that. But understand the first mode of operation for a life insurance policy is to protect the family. And so we don't want to try and force people into stuff that isn't a good fit for them. Now, let's say I have somebody who's a little bit older, right? So let's say my daughter's just here touching everything. She touched this little thing. Her eyes got big. She didn't expect it to make that much noise. So let's say I have somebody who is maybe mid-50s, mid-50s, early 60s. They're not looking for any cash value accumulation. And they're like, Mike, I just want a permanent life insurance policy. I don't want cash value. I don't want it to expire. I just want a permanent policy. Typically what I'll use is what's called a no-lapse guarantee universal life policy, right? Or I may use an IUL with the no-lapse guaranteed rider. So, but the no-lapse guarantee universal life, here's what that means. You're going to pay a level premium throughout the entirety of the policy. So I don't have to worry about it going up. I'm not worried about paying less. I'm not worried about it terming out. I'm just knowing that, okay, come hell or high water, I pay this premium every month. My policy is going to stay in force. And so let's just put some numbers in it. So now typically I'm not doing a $750,000 universal life. A lot of times those are around the $100,000, $250,000. Every once in a while I may do like a $500,000 policy. All right. So I'm going to say $250,000. All right. And we're going to solve it for monthly. And we're going to make sure I'm protected until the age of 120. Okay. 120. I'm in good health. You know, I'm kind of like Superman. So I might live for a while. So I'm going to protect myself to age 120, basically just making sure the policy doesn't lapse out on me. So from there, so I put in that information, I calculate it. And now what's going to tell me is, she drops something. She looks at me with this surprised look on her face. Stop. So what it's going to tell me is, okay, Mike, this is how much you're going to have to pay to be able to keep this policy in force for yourself for the rest of your life. So $220 a month, right? 40-year-old male, standard non-tobacco rating, $250,000 worth of coverage, 100, and it's going to keep me covered until age 120. I'm going to pay $220 a month. So, and you'll see these are annual numbers here, all right? These are annual numbers here, and you'll see all the way until age. It never goes up. It's going to go all the way until age 120. Got a long ways to go to get to 120, as you can see. All the way to 120, that policy stays in force. Premium does not increase, not one little bit. All right, baby, your elbow is in front of the camera; they can see you. And some people say, well, I could have just saved that. Well, let's think about this. Over 80 years of paying $220, that's actually only $211,000. So even for 80 years of putting away $220 a month, I wouldn't have reached $250,000. Right? So that's the value point, because a lot of times you'll get people like, well, you know, it may be a little expensive and I don't know if I should pay that much. So here's the reality is, like, you're not, if you could have saved the money, you more than likely already would have. All right. And even if you started today, there's no guarantee that, you know, nothing's going to happen in the next year or 2 years or 3 years, and you're not going to save up $250,000 in 3 years. All right. start putting yourself in a position where your family doesn't have to worry about, okay, what happens to me? What happens to you? How are we going to take care of this? How are we going to take care of that? And we can have that conversation. And then also what we can add on specifically with Nationwide is you have what's called a long-term care rider, right? So the long-term care rider, I'll check that box right there. And you see, we can actually select the monthly benefit 2, 3, or 4%. And so we're going to get 2%. I'm going to select the 2%. We're going to get 2% of the death benefit for long-term care needs. Okay. So as soon as this comes up, it'll give you right at the beginning, it gives you a little breakdown. All right. So here it is. So we get 2% on an annual basis for long-term care benefits. So that provides, so $250,000 worth of coverage, 2% of that, you get $5,000 a month for long-term care needs. And these are all the things that it covers: informal care, formal home care, assisted living care, adult daycare, facility care, nursing home care, and other qualified service providers. So this is, again, it's now instead of people having to have two different things, right, they get to have one. Life insurance policy that also covers for long-term care. So again, this is something that we can add on with our permanent policies. So again, we went through two different types of policies, and I know I'm going through it relatively quickly. I'm going to give some chance for some questions at the end, but I want to kind of give you guys an overview because I know we got some people getting licensed, and I want them to be able to understand what are some of the different things that we can do for people. And then also with those of you, I know we got like 3 launch parties over the next couple of days, and I want your conviction in regards to what we can do to continue to grow. All right. And so the term policy, that's for the individual. Not a lot of money left over at the end of a month, maybe still working on their emergency fund, but they got a big insurable need. A term policy fits great in that position. A universal life policy, that's for somebody who just wants permanent coverage. Maybe they want to add a long-term care rider, but they don't want to build cash value and they don't want the policy to term out. So they just want a permanent solution. Universal, a no-lapse guarantee universal life. Going to level out the premium. They know exactly what they're going to pay every month, and they know exactly what they're going to get from what they pay. All right. So those are two insurance solutions that we're able to provide. Now, here's the third one. This is the Index Universal Life. All right. Now, Index Universal Life, Variable Universal Life, doesn't matter. Both of those are cash value driven policies. What do I mean by that? That means that the cash value, right, needs to accumulate because the cost of insurance is going to go up as the person gets older, and the cash value should be able to compensate or pay for the cost of that insurance. All right. And the idea isn't for people to put minimum amounts in, it's to overfund, right? You want to overfund these types of policies. So again, we're going to use the same individual, a male, 40 years old, standard non-tobacco. And let's say we do a $500,000 policy. So we're going to cover this gentleman for $500,000. Now, there's a couple of things I want to point out just from this point here. All right. So we're going to look at the death benefit option. So we're going to leave it at level death benefit. Level death benefit. What does that mean? That means through the entirety of the policy, the death benefit won't exceed $500,000. It won't exceed. All right. Let's say right at $500,000, unless our cash value gets too large. All right. But I want to point out one thing right here. So you have two very important numbers. You have your no lapse guarantee premium, and you have your guideline annual premium. This is the minimum amount you can put in on a monthly basis. This is the maximum amount you could put in on an annual basis. Okay. So again, minimum monthly, maximum annually. Now, so $500,000 policy, the max I can put in is $6,974 per year. All right. And that's on a level death benefit. Now watch this. I'm going to switch my death benefit from level to increasing. Just going to make that one little flip. And watch what happens. I'm gonna go back to that same page. Okay, it'll calculate for me. There it goes. And so the difference now is, instead of it just being stuck at $500,000, the death benefit would increase. So as the cash value increases, so does the death benefit. But look at this. So the no lapse guarantee amount actually went down. So that went down a little bit, but look at the guideline annual. $16,194. We can put in an additional $10,000 per year into this policy. So what is the main thing I'm wanting you guys to get from this? Is that you have the ability to structure it to the best, to the needs of your client. You have that ability. Now, we can work together to build it the right way, but just understand, like, so when we sit down and we're having conversations, well, I don't know if I can do this. Like, tell them, don't worry about that. Just tell me what it is that you need, and we'll come up with the solution. Right? They don't know how to do what we do. Right? But we can come up with a solution that fits them. So if I have somebody who's looking at, like, I have a doctor right now, we just put a policy in force. His guideline annual was $24,000 a year because he's planning on putting in $2,000 a month into the policy. So we have to be able to fit $2,000 into this policy. Okay. So now in doing that, am I saying that they got to start off putting that amount? No. You can start like towards the minimum, right? Maybe you're putting in, and I never like to put people right at the minimum. I always like to start people above the minimum. And so I may start, like, if this was a for real client that I was putting together, my goal for them would be probably to start around $500 to $600 a month. I want you to put in $500 to $600 a month, and then I'm gonna have a game plan for us to be putting in $16,000 a year. That's what, a little over $1,500 a month or something like that. $1,400 a month. So I would start at $600-700, but then I would have a game plan to increase ourselves up to $1,400, because at some point I want them putting away that guideline annual premium number, right? Because why? Because they're purchasing this thing with the expectation of being able to pull money out of it. That's why they're getting it. And so if I'm just selling them this, saying, hey, you can get it for $212 a month, like, that doesn't mean that they're going to take my word for it, but it's not empowering them to properly fund this thing. And that's our goal, is we want to be able to help people properly fund these policies. So let me go back just really quick. I know we're coming up on 11:45, and I know it was kind of wishful thinking to get through all of this as quickly as I said I wanted to. But let's say, so from year 1 to year 3, we put in $700 a month. And then we go to, let's say, $900 from year 4 to year 6. And then we get up to $1,500 from year 7 until age 65. All right. So what did I just tell the software? I'm telling the software every so many years we're going to increase what we're putting in on an annual basis. Okay. And so, or on a monthly basis. And so it's going to show all of these numbers. And then with Nationwide, the interest rate is ran at 6%. Okay. So you have the first column here is your age, is the years are in the policy. Second column is age. Third column is the annualized premium. So again, we're starting with 7, then we increase it to 9, and then we increase it to the 1,500. Okay. So you look at the cash value accumulating. Well, actually, so this column is the cash value accumulating. So you have two columns here. So you have this first column is at 2.75% rate of return. This column here is at a 6% rate of return. So they're essentially the same things. We're just giving different views in regards to what the market could potentially look like. So you see here, this is the cash value accumulate. All right. This is the surrender value. The surrender value is if we were to surrender the contract within that first 10 years. So if they surrender the contract in year 5, they have 35,000 in, and they would only walk away with 27,000. But after the 10th year, the numbers are exactly the same. They're exactly the same, right? And in the death benefit, you see as the cash value increases, so does the death benefit. So now the families will get both. And then this last column here, this is on long-term care benefit. So again, now we have a $500,000 worth of insurance, 2% of $500,000. They're going to get $10,000 worth of long-term care. So this thing right here can do a whole lot for somebody, right? We're saving for cash accumulation. We have a life insurance benefit, and we have long-term care. 3 very important components to a family's financial health, right? So now when we put this together, so remember, so we were saving all the way until age 65. Saving until age 65. So at 65, we stopped. We haven't put anything else in it. We haven't put anything else in the cost in the policy. So now it's saying we have 622,000 worth of worth of cash value. So this is money that our clients have access to, right? And then if they pass away, $1.1 million is going to pay out to the families. $1.1 million is going to pay out to the families in the event of them passing, right? Or if they need it for long-term care benefit, then they'll pull from the long-term care. Now, here's something that's, I know this question goes through some people's head. If we pull from the long-term care, will it lower the death benefit? Absolutely, it will. Because you're leveraging the death benefit for long-term care purposes. And so now here's the idea. Actually, let me go back and let me check something really quick. Annual cost. Okay. So, and a lot of times you'll have people that'll ask questions like, well, how much is the fees and all of these other types of things, which are great questions. And you want to put yourself in a position where you can answer those for people. Okay. So these are the fees. So if you take from premium charge all the way over here, right? These are the fees annually for the contract. Okay. These are the fees annually. Now, I'm just going to jump ahead really quick to the point where we stop putting money in. So you see here at age 65, we stop paying for, we're no longer putting any more money in the policy. And you look at the cost of insurance. So the cost of insurance is 120 plus 222 plus 325. Plus 3250, I apologize. So let's call that, let's just say $300. All right. So $300 a month or $3,600 per year is your cost of insurance. Well, because we've accumulated $600,000 in the policy, assuming just a 6% rate of return, our gain that year was $45,000. So you see how it can easily pay for the cost of insurance while still being able to provide your client, funds to be able to, live life and retire, whatever they want to do with it. But that doesn't happen if we don't build the cash value, because something has to pay for this. And so now you're taking the responsibility off of you as the agent. Off of your client, I apologize, off of your client to have to pay for it. And now they built a nest egg that's able to fund a number of different things. So I know I've went through a lot of information. I want to pause for questions right now. Questions? I did an amazing job at at breaking that down? Because I know I went through a whole lot of information really quick, or y'all just too shy to ask? Yvonne, are you unmuting yourself? No?
You're doing good, Michael.
I'm doing good? All right.
Yes, you're doing good.
Yeah, it is a lot of information to take in. You're absolutely right. It is a lot of information. And I mean, in all honesty, that's why we get compensated the way we get compensated. You know, we're talking about protecting people's livelihoods. We're talking about making sure that if somebody passes away, that a legacy is being left behind. And so when people, you know, a lot of times, I remember back in that, when they had that fiduciary rule that was coming out, you know, a lot of people were complaining about, you know, how much financial professionals were making. But if you look at the impact we get to make in families' lives, like if we do it the right way, it's pennies compared to the impact that we do for people. And so, you know, in my 14 years of being in business, I've seen a lot of individuals just take it for granted. You know, they look at I'll get to that question. I just saw that pop up. They see the money that can be made, and they just have this idea of like, oh, you know, people are just better off with something rather than nothing. Okay, yeah, you can make an argument for that. But how much better would somebody be if they actually benefited from, if they were actually sitting down with somebody who cared enough to put the right product in place for them, right? Because you can have people that they have something, but they're overpaying for it. Or they have something and it's not enough. And if somebody would have just paid a little bit more attention, really took in and understood how to put together the right plans or the right policy, you know, the family would be in a much better situation. And that's the power that we all have. That's the impact that we get to make. That's why I wanted to go over these 3 different types of policies, because at the end of the day, you can make this fit with the exception of a final expense policy. And like I said, we have the Evers training about that. But with the exception of a final expense policy, like every client that you sit down with is going to fit probably in one of these 3 areas. It's either going to be a term policy, a UL, or an index universal life. And you can make it very simple and say, okay, do you have an emergency fund? Are you trying to protect yourself for life? Or are you just trying to protect yourself for a period of time? If you just want a period of time, let's go with a term policy. If you're trying to protect yourself for the rest of your life, not trying to build cash value, let's go with the universal life. If you're trying to build cash value, then let's go with the index universal life or variable universal life. It really boils down to be that simple. And then the details just come into how to structure really an IUL and a VUL. Term policies and ULs are really easy to structure. So Claire and Pedro, a lot of info to take in. When you calculated a long-term care benefit on a larger policy, what did you use to determine that? The key is that you're serving someone's mother and sibling. Many people will benefit. Yeah, absolutely. So when I just used the 2%, it was still the same 2%. I didn't change it. I didn't change it all. It was 2% of the death benefit. That's what I had it calculated as. And here's what I also do when it comes to assessing long-term care need. I don't want to say like, oh, you need $10,000 worth of long-term care, because I mean, honestly, you know, to pay for $10,000 worth of long-term care, it might be a lot. My thing is, do people have a plan? All right. Do you have a game plan? If something was to happen to you, what do you guys have in place? And then if you have a pension or some type of income, can any of that be leveraged for long-term care needs? So if we sit down and you say, okay, I want to stay at home and I have somebody that's going to take care of me, I need about $5,000 a month to be able to take care of that. Okay, great. How much of your current income can you redirect toward long-term care purposes? I can redirect probably about $2,000. Okay. So what you need is you need $3,000 worth of long-term care coverage, $2,000 monthly worth of long-term care coverage. Because now the $2,000 that you have plus the $3,000 would ultimately be able to give you the $5,000 that you need for your family. And so I'm not putting all of the weight on the policy to have to carry it for family. Like, people have to understand the work and the planning that comes into people's future. Like, this stuff does not just happen by osmosis. Like it requires people to think through this. Right? I know that was one of the conversations Claire and Pedro we had. You know, they had a scenario with a family member, and so you know, it's a lot more than a notion to have something like this happen and not have something in place or not have a plan in place. I thought I saw Ted post up a question. Maybe I was wrong. All right, but great question. Any other question? No? All right, so it's almost 12. So I wanted to stop 10 minutes ago, but I also wanted to kind of complete this. Now, so what did I start off with? We have a lot of companies that we market for. From the life insurance side, a lot of companies we market for. We have our preferred providers, as I mentioned, Nationwide, Transamerica, Everest, Pacific Life, and then we have our Crump providers, which is another 25 to 30 life insurance companies that we market for. Crump also handles all of our annuities. If you have any annuity questions, you call Crump directly. So Crump actually plays a pretty big role in regards to the functioning of our business. And then you can call them and get illustrations ran for you. But again, I always encourage people to understand the illustration process, understand how it works. Because again, you're sitting down with that client. You know what's important for them. And you have somebody like myself who spent probably more time than he should have on this stuff and has a really good understanding of it. And there's little tweaks that we can make to make it very specific to the families we sit down with. Okay. One last thing I'll go over in closing. So when you look at this page again, you have a number right here. This 7,307. This is what we get compensated on, right? So let's say I found somebody like this to put this policy together for, right? And so the target premium is 7307. I'm on a 65% contract. My wife and I are on a 65% contract. Oops. I want to make sure I get my math right. So 7307 times 0.65, $4,749 that this policy would pay me to put in place for somebody. So I just protected a family, made sure they had life insurance, right? Make sure they had an opportunity to build tax-free accumulation for the future, and then also made sure that they had long-term care benefit. And I get compensated almost $5,000. And I can promise you guys this takes less than an hour and a half to do between presentation, illustration, and doing the application. Takes less than an hour and a half. And so when you look at, again, the impact that you get to make in people's lives, in addition to the impact you get to make on your own life. I mean, think about it. Like this is more than some people make in a month. And you have the ability to make it in an hour. By going out there, being the great human beings that we all are. And you get to, and making an impact in somebody's life, you could generate that type of income just like that. And so now, again, how does that start to change your life? Now you're not having to put in, 30 hours to get a $5,000 paycheck. All right. Or let's say you found somebody that had like Cassandra and Nicole. They just had somebody who we're rolling over $250,000. So we're putting this into an annuity, and this is actually going with Nationwide. It's paying out 6%, right? So 250,000 times 6%, I think that's 13,200 points, I want to say. and then we split that. All right, so let's do the math real quick. 13,200 divided by 2. So that's 660 or 6,600 on their side. Cassandra's on a 35% contract. So that would pay Cassandra $2,310. She wasn't even there. Wasn't even there. Wasn't even on no appointment. Right? And she got compensated that. Right? The impact that our business has on people's lives and on our lives is like, you can't put it into words you can't put it into words what you would have the ability to do if you remove that financial burden. Especially when I look at all the people, it's again like the Vincents and the Teds and the Stephanies who just came into business with us, and the Stephanie who was in business with us, the Claire and Pedros, the Yvonne Parkers. Like, these are like at their core just really good people. Really good people. And so now you teach really good people how to go out and perform a much needed service. It's a win-win across the board for everybody. So that's all I got for everybody today. 3 o'clock, I believe, we'll post up the Elite Circle qualification in there. I know some of you guys, well, Mike, I didn't qualify. Some of you guys didn't even know it. Claire and Pedro qualified. I bet they didn't even know they qualified. All right, let's see the best. Pedro's like, oh, really? They qualify, right? I know there was a couple other people that's qualified, people that are going to qualify. Just get on. Take it in. This is another component of our system and what it is that we do. Go out there and let's get out there and just learn how it could possibly impact your business. And then we can have a conversation afterwards to find out if it's the right time and the right fit for you to be able to take advantage of it. Appreciate everybody. Keep up the good work. Hey, 60-day challenge. I know just because we haven't been talking about it as much doesn't mean you should be slacking off. You should be on it, reading your business plan, following your schedule, communicating with people. You should be doing all of that. We're not little kids. We don't need people walking around holding our hands. Hey, are you doing it? No, you have a business that you're building, and so we need to do it together. So keep up the good work. Keep growing. Let's keep changing people's lives. I appreciate all of you. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Excellent training today.